Can we please mute our mics? Thank you. Please bear in mind that these presentations are not just for our presenters who are learning skills such as long case presentation, self-presentation, public speaking, but it's also a chance for those of you online, those who are part of the audience, to learn how to be a part of an online session, especially etiquette, online manners. For example, when entering a chat or a virtual meeting, please always mute your mic. Also, when it comes to question and answer session, depending on the house rules of the respective meeting that you are in, you can either ask your question by raising your hand, the floor will be given to you, or you can simply write your questions, comments, and observations in the chat. Once again, this is an open learning platform for all of our students. Please take full advantage. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our professorial team, Professor Njelasani, Professor Lambert, Professor Mudenda, Professor Wansa, Professor Mulenga, Professor Mwaba, as well as Professor Viemba, Professor Emaus, Professor Kasolo, as well as Professor Kumar and Professor Gilani, to name a few. As you can see, we have quite a mixed and a wide array of members of the professorial team. Without any further ado, I would like to invite our moderator to briefly introduce the topic and begin the presentation. Moderator, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Shilondo. Good evening to all our female students. The topic today is the role of temperature and sustaining life on Earth. Why is temperature important? In order for us to understand the importance of temperature, we go back to the Bible. On day number 1, God created light and darkness. That light is the one that provided the heat on Earth. Without heat, there can be no life. What is the importance of heat? In order for biological molecules to be able to carry out their functions, they need to move. They need the kinetic energy which they obtain from the heat. So after God created the light, he later on created light. It wasn't the other way around. Without heat, there can be no life. So in order for life to exist on Earth, on day number 1, God created life. Day number 3, that is when he created kingdom of plantain. And Maria followed data on the final day number 6, that is when human beings came into being. So life requires heat. I urge us all to pay attention to what our presenters are going to be telling us. There are some questions which will be given at the end of the presentation. Today's topic is coming from the curriculum. And as earlier stated, it will be back one, both biology 1 and biology 2. So please, shall we be very attentive, participate and ask questions at the end. I now invite my first presenter, Mr. Derek Chao. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Chamcha. I'm in the first year, first semester, and I'm doing my pre-meds. I'm happy to be here today because we want to discuss about one of the essential topics in Earth, its life, and that is the role of temperature in sustaining life on Earth. So we have the outlines of what we are going to talk about today. So the outlines, the introduction, classification of organisms according to temperature, heat exchange between the body and the environment, long-term physiological responses of organisms to environmental stresses, is the environmental temperature rising, the effects of temperature on organism, ecosystem, and healthy food for thought and conclusion. So, biology is the study of life. Life is defined as a system that tries to regulate itself to preserve its identity through self-organization, self-regulation, and self-reproduction. Cells are the foundation of all living things, of all characteristics, functions, and functions of life. Living systems are temperature sensitive. Temperature is a measure of heat energy. It is a physiological variable that is strictly controlled by living things. Now, imagine if we are living in a world where, where temperature is either too hot to handle or too cold to survive. And life we wouldn't have existed. So temperature plays a vital role in sustaining life on the environment, on the earth, by creating a perfect condition for animals, plants, and humans to thrive. It's like God placed the sun, the distance between the earth and the sun, just on the right distance, where it is not too hot and again it is not too cold. Where scientists, scientists call this as the Goldilocks zone, where it is not too hot and it is not too cold for sustaining, for life to be sustained on Earth. So due to this, the atmosphere, the Earth atmosphere, it regulates temperature, making it perfect for liquid water to exist on Earth. And because of this, it supports the stability and of supporting life, diverse and ecosystem. There is a relationship between external environmental temperature and internal body temperature. Multicellular organisms, including man, require relatively stable internal temperature environment. Physiological regulatory mechanisms achieve this relative stability of the internal environment. Organisms control body temperature by altering rates of heat gain and loss. So, for example, in human bodies, this is regulated through the regulatory system which maintains the homeostasis. For example, if we are exposed to hot environments, our body will react like in a vasodilation where the body is going to the blood vessels are going to now are going to be widened to allow more heat to be lost. And also behavioral environment due to the same, like wanting, like sweating. When you are exposed to too much heat, you sweat, and the evaporation of sweat it cools the body. And the opposite is true when you are exposed to in a cold environment. There will be reaction that will occur on your body, such as vasoconstriction, shivering, and also behavioral characteristics. There is a limit to the range. There is a limit to range of body temperature that physiological function can withstand, and these are critical temperature, which is there is the upper critical temperature and the lower critical temperature. So under the lower critical temperature, we have the minimum body temperature that can be tolerated by an organism. Below this, the biochemical properties of the cell structure are altered and reaction are slowed and death ensues. Under the critical temperature, the maximum body temperature that can be tolerated by an organism beyond the UCT, which is the upper critical temperature, cellular components and processes become disrupted and the organism eventually dies. With this one, we can summarize them through hypothermia, which is too too cold and hypothermia is too hot. When we are exposed, when it is too cold, and we know that the body maintains the temperature, the core temperature of about 36.5 to 37.5 degrees Celsius. So when we are exposed to, when the temperature drops to 35 degrees, this may lead to exhaustion or the slow metabolism or even failure of organs. Under the upper critical temperature, or what we can say hyperthermia, when the temperature exceeds above 45, like for human beings, this may lead to exhaustion or stroke or even death. So from here, I'll give the floor to my second presenter.
Over to us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will be presenting, I will continue the presentations with classification of organisms using temperature. So there are three criteria in classification. So number one is classification based on the ability of organisms to regulate their body temperature. Number two is the classification based on the sources of body heat. Number three, classification based on their response to environmental temperature changes. So criteria number one. In this criteria, which is ability to regulate body temperature, there are two classes. So there are thermoregulators and thermoconformers. So thermoregulators, these are organisms that keep their core body temperature within certain limits, regardless of the environmental temperature changes. These, as my colleague has mentioned, these examples of this can be mammals, and birds, which do this by homeostasis. The second class is thermoconformers. These are organisms that change their body temperature with the changes in environmental temperature. These are other organisms, for example, amphibians. So the second criteria is classification based on the sources of body heat. Again, we have two classes under this criteria, which is ectothermic and endothermic. Ectothermic, these are organisms that depend largely on external sources of heat, such as solar radiation, to maintain their body temperature above the environmental temperature. So in this class, temperature comes mostly from the environment. Class number two, endothermic. So these are organisms that create most of their heat via metabolic process. Mammals and birds are endothermic. Most other animals behave as ectotherms most of the time. Third criteria. Their classification based on their response to environmental temperature changes. So there are three classes in this criteria. Number one is homeotherm, kilotherm, and the third one is heterotherm. So what are homeotherms? These are organisms that maintain a constant body temperature over a wide range of environmental temperatures, have narrowly varying body temperatures. For example of this can be men. Poikilotherms. What are poikilotherms? Poikilotherms are organisms whose body temperature changes when the temperature of its environment changes. For example, lizards. Heterotherms. Heterotherms, organisms that maintain a constant body temperature some of the time. An animal that is endothermic but is not fully homeothermic. For example of this can be bats and squirrels. Uh, so now the next thing is heat exchanges between the body and the environment. So heat exchange between the body and the environment takes place by radiation, conduction, convection, and evaporation. Heat gain versus heat loss determines core body temperature. Endotherms as well as ectotherms are influenced by heat exchanges with the environment. Heat always moves down its concentration gradient. The concentration gradient is called thermal gradient, where heat moves from warmer object to a cooler, from a warmer region to a cooler region. So, as mentioned earlier, the core body temperature, which is the total body heat content, is determined by heat input and heat output. So heat input can be gained. Heat input is gained heat. This is heat from internal heat production like metabolic processes and heat from the external environment like solar radiation. So and heat output is heat loss to the environment. And heat loss occurs when the body temperature is higher than the environmental temperature. Mechanisms of heat exchange. An organism can absorb or lose heat from or to the environment by conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation. What is conduction? Convection is the transfer of heat from a warmer to a cooler object that are in direct contact with each other. Convection. Convection, the transfer of heat energy by currents. Cool air warmed by the body will rise above and will be replaced by more cool air. Number three is radiation. What is radiation? Radiation is the transfer of heat through electromagnetic radiation, like solar radiation, without objects coming into contact. Evaporation. Evaporation is a change in state from liquid to gas, which requires energy. Heat dissipated from the body during evaporation because large water molecules with high energy content accumulate at the skin surface and enter gaseous phase. So this diagram shows what I have been speaking about. So the first one is heat exchange through radiation, as it shows that solar radiation, heat is gained from solar radiation. Second one is conduction. So as the snowball and the body is in direct contact, so heat will be moved from the body to the snowball, down in concentration, down gradient. The third one is convection current. This shows that air warmed by the body rises up and is replaced by more cooler air. The fourth one is evaporation. As wet air, liquid in the wet air will be changing to vapor. Long-term physiological responses of organisms to environmental stresses. Adaptation. What is adaptation? Adaptation is a physiological, biochemical, or anatomical modification occurring within a species over several generations that facilitate and enhance the ability to survive and reproduce in a particular environment. An example of adaptation can be seen in Arctic polar bears, which have thick fur and a lot of body fats. The second one is acclimatization. Acclimatization is physiological, biochemical, or anatomical modification occurring within the lifetime of an individual organism that results from chronic exposure to a naturally occurring environmental challenge. This means physiological change in response to seasonal climate changes accomplished through metabolic compensation. An example can be with the body producing more red blood cells when you are at a higher altitude. I'll hand over to my colleague.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natasa Chomo. I will be presenting on how we're continuing on the long-term physiological responses of organisms to environmental stresses. So I will be answering some questions on is the environmental temperature rising? According to NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the World Meteorological Organization (WMO), in 2024, it was recorded that it was the warmest year they have ever recorded according to pre-industrial levels. Global temperatures have been rising at a rate of approximately 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade since the late 1970s. This trend shows a consistent rise in average global temperatures over time, mostly due to human activities like burning of fossil fuels. Effects of temperature on organisms and ecosystems. So temperature profoundly affects the rates of most physical, biochemical, and physiological functions in animals. Therefore, normal body function is related to normal body temperature. Cell functions optimally within a narrow temperature range. Chemical reactions slow down if they are too cold, and membrane and protein structures are disrupted if the environment gets too hot. It plays a role in both distribution of organisms on Earth and determines activities of organisms. Some effects of temperature on organisms and ecosystems can also be it potentially leads to biodiversity loss, influences life cycles of organisms, determines the type of species of organisms that can thrive in a given area. It affects the availability of food and water for an ecosystem. Environmental and health impacts on rising global temperatures. Heart stroke, heat exhaustion, dehydration, increase, especially among elderly children, outdoor laborers, and pregnant women. High temperatures speed up reactions between pollutants, increasing ground level ozone, a lung irritant that triggers asthma and other respiratory issues. Cardiovascular stress, the heart pumps faster in order to increase blood flow to the skin to release excess heat through stressor. In this situation of cardiovascular stress, if the heart stresses for a very long time, it might lead to cardiac arrest, a heart attack, which if not treated immediately can be fatal. Some other environmental health impacts of rising global temperatures are sweating, which leads to fluid loss, which can lower the blood volume and cause blood pressure to drop. Loss of sodium, potassium through sweat can disrupt normal heart rhythms, leading to arrhythmias and palpitations, infectious diseases. Warmer temperatures expand the range of carrying insects, e.g. mosquitoes spreading malaria and diarrhea. Warmer conditions can tend to be more frequent and severe wildfires, which release significant amounts of particulate matter in the air. These fine particles can penetrate deep into the lungs, causing inflammation and exacerbating conditions like asthma and chronic bronchitis. Before we go to the food for thought on the previous slide, in certain conditions and other animals like crocodiles, their breeding depends on the weather. If it's too hot, they can only breed males. If it's too cold, they can only breed females. So looking at last year, there were more male crocodiles produced than females. If certain temperatures like that continue for a very long time, it might lead to female crocodiles being extinct and only having male crocodiles in existence. So our food for thought is what is the future holding for man, for life, or what can we do to avoid the escalating rising temperatures? I will give you a minute to move about this.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much to our three presenters. We clap for them again. Indeed, what is the future holding for man? Environmental temperatures are rising every day. Every year we have an increase of about 0.2 degrees Celsius. What are you doing about it? The older generations did their part. They planted the trees, but you and I have come and we've cut down all the trees because we wanted to have charcoal. Where are your children going to be? Where are my children going to be? What can we do? What can you and I do in our personal capacities to address the rising temperatures? We are offered a medical university. A medical university should be providing solutions for the government. We should be able to guide society on the way forward. I hope we all at least manage to plant a tree. We have plenty of rains. There is no reason why we shouldn't plant a tree. Plant a tree, plant maize, contribute to food security of the company, and that you are going to save a life. If you plant an adult tree, one adult tree can produce oxygen for up to 4 adult individuals every day. So for every tree that you plant, you'll be taking care of 4 people in your life. We shall be participating in taking care of those people. Plant a tree. I hope would be one of the criteria of entering heaven. We have saved mankind today. We now come to our audience. Question guys, if we have any questions, please we can raise our hands. The unmute button has been activated. We have too much feedback in the background. Please, whenever you join, always mute. If you have a question, kindly raise your hand, or you can type your question in the chat box. We shall attend to you. The audience now is your time, including the ones.
To echo Dean Chirwa's sentiments, please be aware that these online sessions are a chance for you to practice various skills, online etiquette and public speaking, among others. So please, there are no right or wrong questions. Now is your chance. If you're not comfortable directly speaking, that is fine. You can write your questions in the chat and they will be read out to you, or rather, they'll be read out for you. I see we have a good attendance, so well done.
To anyone part of the audience, I can ask a question too. I heard something interesting about crocodiles. You said when it is hot, the males are favored compared to the females.
Their sex is determined according to the temperature.
Okay, great. Any special reason for that?
Not special.
Female.
There is no special reason as to why they hatch according to temperature.
Okay, but there will be more of the males hatching compared to the females.
Yes, due to climate change.
Due to climate change. So if we don't do anything about it, we shall only remain with male crocodiles and the species will become extinct. Okay, thank you. Back to you, our last audience.
Can the Madam Shinondo work on the roll call? How is the participation? Which areas the people participating?
Madam Shinondo, please bear in mind that we've got Freemet, morning university at 8, we've got university at 16, we have the OGL and Chipata campus.
So for those, okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cho. So for those in attendance, let us start a simple roll call exercise. For starters, you can simply, by writing in the chat or raising your hand, how many of us are listening from Chipata? You can simply write Chipata in the chat. How many are listening from Chipata site? What about, excellent. We have Mr. Nkungulu. Welcome. Excellent. What about those from any listening from Kitwe site? Kitwe or Kawe? And in the meantime, while those from Kitwe or Kawe are typing, Dr. Chiro, what were the other respective sites that you mentioned?
Chalala, ODL, University at 8 and University at 16.
Do we have any listening from University at 16? We have Hope Kapasa, University at 16. Well done. Thank you for coming through. What about those University at 8?
The regular group, do we have people from Chipata, from Chalala campus? Those should be the majority.
We have an SM, that's Open Distance Learning. Which program? We have another one, FEBI, Open Distance Learning. Excellent. We have Sarah Kawimbi, Chalala, Open Distance. We also have a number of them. We have Yambani Piri, Open Distance Learning. We also have Peterson, that is Chalala University at 8. We also have Rosemary Situmbeku, Chalala Campus. Nasilele, the old Chalala Campus, Group 1, 2C. We have Victor and Saima, Open Distance Learning. Beverly, that's Chalala Campus. We have a number of, most of our participants are from Chalala Campus and Open Distance Learning. We also have another one, Pre-Med Open Distance. We have a lot. Well done. Well done. Well done to those of you in attendance. Job well done. Excellent. We still have more names coming through with regards to Open Distance Learning and Chalala Campus. Tanaka, once again, Chalala Campus, excellent. Now, job well done for those of you in attendance. You are representing your respective locations well. Looking forward to having a few more from Chipata. Now that we've gotten the ball rolling, do we have any questions, observations, or comments to share? Please feel free. The chat box is yours to use. For those who are learning to get comfortable with sharing their opinions in the chat, as I've come to notice, a number of people can simply say, great presentation, job well done. That is a good start. Then eventually you will become more comfortable asking questions. Wonder Kid, why do cold-blooded animals rely more on external temperatures for survival compared to warm-blooded animals?
Cold-blooded animals, they do not depend for heat on metabolic processes. That is why they rely on external sources. While warm-blooded animals, they have metabolic processes which can produce heat for them. Thus the comparison. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The one who asked the question, are you happy with the answer?
So, Wonder Kid, you are free to give a response to that answer, but otherwise, a good answer. We have Samsung. Is it possible to have a recorded session of this? Yes. For those of you who are experiencing network challenges, we upload our presentations on our YouTube channel, Lusaka Apex Medical University, Lamu on YouTube. We have Dan. On the slide for thermoreceptors, where are they located in the human body specifically?
So, thermoreceptors, although we never had it in the presentation, but thermoreceptors are present in the skin normally of the human body. Thank you. I hope that has answered your question.
Thank you. And Wonder Kid gave their response. They were happy with that answer. We have a comment from Stika. This is a good presentation, even with the current pushback from some powerful nations to limit supports to climate change. Great presentation to all the participants. Great timing. We have one from Ngunta. Why do hairs lie flat when it's hot?
Okay, so the function of the hairs on the skin is to trap warm air. So when it's hot, our control center does not give impulses to the skin muscles to constrict, which does not raise the hair, and we do not need a lot of warm air on our environment. Thus the hairs lie flat. Hope that answered your question.
Excellent. We have another one from, just give me a moment. We have one from Tokwana. How can most third world countries that rely on fossil fuels like charcoal move in a sustainable direction without severely affecting those that rely on them as a source of income?
So I think of this answer as those trees that are cut down or chopped for charcoal. They're replaced by other trees. For example, if you cut one tree, you grow another one. Thus, the sustainability of the environment. Thank you. Hope that answered your question.
Oh, just an addition, you cut one tree, you plant more than one. That way the population of trees will start going up.
We have one from Nasilele. How does the liver respond to hypothermia?
Our moderator can well explain this.
Dr. Chabo, what was the question?
I think he talked about hypothermia. What does the body do? And the presentation it came out very, very good. Because there will be hypothermia, you will try to conserve heat by vasoconstriction, which you say, trying to conserve it by vasoconstriction so that the skin does not release the heat. you preserve. When the body is hot, there's vasodilatation and the sweating. I think I heard one of you presenters, you brought up that answer very well.
Yeah, so the issue of non-shivering thermogenesis, we have brown fat and then we have white fat. So whenever we have hypothermia, there will be an increment in the rate at which the fat will be burnt. That fat burning, one of the effects of fat burning is the generation of the heat. So that is non-shivering thermogenesis. The shivering thermogenesis, that is where you have increased skeletal muscle contraction. That contraction will generate heat as well.
And also in the general public, if you hear people do drink alcohol, they will drink one or two beers, they feel warm. It is because the liver is trying to metabolize the toxic material being brought into the body. So as the increase of metabolic rate of the liver trying to detoxify the alcohol, the drinker feels warm. But it's not a good sign because over the years, the liver cells, the hepatocytes, are going to be destroyed. They will always be replaced now by either cirrhosis of the liver or cancer of the liver cells. So I think we should be applying that. Whenever you are growing in this field of healthcare, you'll be looking at these patients in this way. But at this stage, remember how the heat is generated using these body organs. But some of them very detrimental side, like liver getting involved. Because the final end is the liver cells are damaged.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, there are.
Okay, let's have them. Let's have as many questions before we come to the quiz.
Wonder Kid is asking, why do people living in colder climates tend to have shorter, stockier builds compared to those in hotter climates?
Come again.
Why do people living in colder climates tend to have shorter, stockier builds compared to those living in hotter climates?
So I think people this relates to surface area. So surface area and volume ratio. So the shorter you are, you have less surface area. So this decreases the surface area. There's heat loss and heat gain will be less. I hope that answered your question.
Correct. We mainly lose heat through the skin. So the larger the surface area of the skin will have, the larger the area through which heat can be lost. Any more questions, please, students?
Yes, we have one more. We have one from Chiromo. How does temperature affect an animal's physiological process and behavior?
So, temperature tends to affect an animal's physiological process and behavior. When it is too hot, when it is too hot, the heart is required to pump a lot of blood to almost all parts of the body. And this affects process and behavior through the temperature affects the process and behavior because it can get easier to do some things and it gets harder to do some other things.
And to add on, so the body, like to be specific, we have the part of the brain called the hypothalamus, which works as the thermostat. initiates responses due to heat. So if there is too much heat, you like what we talked about, maybe hypothermia and hypo hypothermia and hyperthermia. When all these things are it's a temperature, the external temperature environment that affects it for it to function like the thermostat. Thank you.
Excellent. Well answered. Well done. Well, we have reached the end of the questions. There currently aren't any more. And now I would now like to hand the floor back to our moderator, Dr. Chua.
Okay, thank you. So as promised, I said that we are going to have quiz questions based on today's presentations. Okay, question 1. Classification of organisms is based on Classification of organisms based on temperature is dependent on all of the following apart from. So you have to pick the best answer. Best answer meaning that some answers will be correct, but which one is the best of them all? Classification of organisms based on temperature is dependent on all of the following, apart from number 1, based on the ability of the organism to regulate the temperature, based on the sources of body heat, based on the amount of heat energy generated after metabolism, based on their response to environmental temperature changes. Our audience, which one is the best option? Okay, the options are coming in. Option C and D seem to be popular. Okay, option C is the best answer. Most of the students have been able to guess that. Okay, question 2. The core body temperature is determined by which of the following? Again, we are picking the best option, not the correct option. Core body temperature is determined by which of the following? Environmental temperature, heat gain, heat loss, heat gain versus heat loss, the metabolic rate of the organism. Question 2, what is the best answer on question 2? Paper says option D. Okay, everyone has gotten this question correct. Thank you very much, our audience. It shows that you are indeed paying attention. Option 3. The transfer of heat from a warmer to a cooler object that is in direct contact with the warmer one is known as what? Convection, radiation, conduction, evaporation, none of the above. Transfer of heat from a warmer object to a colder one which is in contact with heat is known as what? Brilliant. Again, almost everyone has gotten the option correct. The presenters, what is the correct answer?
TC
Conduction. We come to question 4. All of the following are effects of temperature on organisms and ecosystems apart from it potentially leads to biodiversity loss, it influences life cycles of the organism, it determines the type of species of organisms that can survive in a given area, it affects availability of food and water for an ecosystem. All the above options are correct. Yambarbiri, straight to the point, option D is indeed correct. So once again, That shows that our participants were paying attention. We managed to get all the questions correct. Who can define the following things? You can put up your hand so that we unmute you and we hear you. One, adaptation. Two, acclimatization. Anyone can define adaptation? You can raise your hand and we shall unmute you. Define the following terms. Number one, adaptation. Number two, acclimatization. Come out with the hand up. Okay, man. Have we unmuted her? Okay, the floor is yours.
Hi.
Please do not type the answer in the interest of time. You can just define the term. Raise your hand and we shall unmute you.
Can you hear me?
We can get you.
So acclimatization is when an organism adapts in a new environment.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Everyone else to define adaptation.
Adaptation.
Yes. When is that you? From Group B.
Adaptations refers to a trait or a characteristic of organism that enhances its survival and reproduction in its specific environment.
Over what period?
So,
Lifetime or several generations?
um, over generations.
Okay, thank you very much. That is Ngara, one of our international students from Zimbabwe. Okay, so that is our marking key for the ones who maybe did not get the correct answers. We are C, D, C, and E. Question 1 to 4 in that. Then definitions, we get them directly from our presentations. So adaptations, modifications occur over several generations, like what the presenter gave for the polar bears. They tend to have the fair color changes and then they have a lot of fat over them. The modifications occur within a frame. For example, again, the example that the presenter gave, people that are at a high altitude have got physiological polycythemia. Because of reduced oxygen availability in their environment, their bone marrows tend to produce more of the red blood cells. So, do you have anything, any contribution?
No, and just to say it's wonderful. The way you have conducted this is very good. As a moderator and as a dean of agreement. Next, every week, prepare one department. It's more from biology lessons, and then there will be mathematics, chemistry, and physics. But just talking about this, I'm extremely happy because you are opening the mind of young people to see what temperature is all about. And you said it very correctly that creation was perfect because all these environmental systems they were put in place. The role of trees, you mentioned it, very good. It's the cooling effect of the green leaf. And read more about the role of trees in cooling anything bring only photosynthesis activities. Just refer to those. You will find out there will be environmental balance, environmental system, ecosystem. That was very good. Two, as you grow up in your field, you may become doctors, nurses, physiotherapists. You will see that temperature is very critical. In the cell, the energy production by mitochondria in the cell. That is the energy trying to be produced. So you will see it in practice. When a person is sick or is involved in an accident, you look at the metabolic response. Temperature is one of them. What you will see in the word, we call it SIRS. SIRS. Systemic inflammatory response to trauma, injury, or even severe infection. You will meet this. So don't your notes. You need notes to refer to in the future. So all the time, please refer to your notes. And this day, you can store this information you have. So I really want to encourage pre-make sessions like this. It's very good. I'm very impressed. Those who have attended, this is the good beginning. What you are learning, you will use in the future. Don't lose your notes. Keep them. Keep building on them. You become a very good health worker. Some of you will take up medicine, physiotherapy, nursing, whatever you will do. This is the knowledge you should not lose. So, Dr. Chirwa, I thank you as a dean and as also a biologist teaching biology to our students. Encourage other departments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for those explanations. And thank you to our presenters. You did a lovely job. You outperformed my expectations. So the next presentation will be under mathematics department. We expect volunteers. Even if I'm partner, your components can be done online. If you are ODL, you can do the presentation online as well. We need both one yes. Mr. Mandubat, then thank you very much to our audience for being very lively.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. We have now come to the end of today's presentation, but I would like to invite closing remarks from our presenters team. Presenters, one of you can give closing remarks on behalf of the team.
So I'd like to thank you everybody who joined the presentation. Your participation was highly appreciated. Join us next time for the mathematics presentation as well. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Closing remarks?
if you want to be among the presenters, contact either HOD Mathematics, Mr. Mkosa, or my office. Then we shall add you to the presentation team. Thank you.
Any additional closing remarks from our presenter, Dr. Chirwa?
Oh, closing remarks. Thank you very much. From the presentation, we've all seen the importance of temperature. A change by 1 degree in either direction can affect our physiological processes and life as we know it. Please plant a tree. That is my message to you. Plant at least one tree every month, make it a habit to plant a tree. And as the boss said, please decide on the other importances of trees, such as cooling. That effect may seem like it is nothing, but the day we run out of trees, someone will be charging you a lot of money just for you to be under the tree to hide from the scorching heat and for you to breathe oxygen. Right now, we can breathe oxygen, but in the future, if we don't do anything, we'll be walking around the oxygen canisters. That should not happen. Shall we take care of the environment and create climate for us? Thank you all for tuning in. Have a blessed day.
Excellent. Thank you. And closing remarks from our professorial team.
Very exciting day, and I hope we shall sustain for pre-med to continue this type of presentation. This is science at its best. I've been joined by Dr. Patrick Msoni, the head of psychiatry department. He has just joined us, and I'm happy he has attended. I'm sure he's advising us and see how we can do best in the future. I must say that Lusaka Apex University for Information has Rufunsa Farm, which has three original 3.9 million trees in Rufunsa Farm. So what we are going to do environmental health. They should get interested, and Dr. Chirwa is chairing a climatic change committee. Get in touch with him. And this year alone, this season, we have planted 3,000 trees at the same site. So if you add, we have more than 4 million trees. Now, if one big tree generates or produces oxygen for 4 people, 4 million trees times 4. That's how much Apex is generating oxygen for the nation and globally. Because they are, unfortunately, we produce oxygen in Rufunsa, it goes up Norway. So I'm telling visitors from Norway that you are breathing part of our oxygen. Because we put it in the tank. But we want to encourage, and Apex has secured forest in almost all provinces. So as you grow up, appreciate the role of a tree in terms of environmental balance, systems of the environment. And I'm sure the VC is attending, the CEO is attending. We are very happy to start grand round from year 1. So every day, Monday, pre-med, Tuesday, pre-clinical, please individual law. Wednesday is research presentation. Thursday is MBCHB. You get their grand round, start attending to this grand round, so you get you how we are managing. Friday, we are sharing message, physiotherapy, radiology, and pharmacy. So attend every day, we have a grand round. And I want us to encourage each other, because we are learning what we are covering at every stage of your education at the Lusaka Apex Medical University. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Professor Lambert. We have now come to the end of today's preclinical presentation. This one was on the role of temperature in sustaining life on Earth. Presenters, job well done. Now, by tomorrow, those of you who would like to watch this recording, you will find it on our LAMO YouTube page. Otherwise, I would like to encourage our team, as soon as this presentation is done, to please step outside and take a photo with our professorial team. This is how we create legacy, through capturing the moments. Otherwise, please, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. We have come to the end. Thank you.